Hi, my name is Russell Stannard. This is teachertrainingvideos.com. This set of training videos is going to show you some of the advanced features in Google Forms. Now, if you're interested in Google Forms but you don't know much about it, please go to teachertrainingvideos.com, click on Google Tools, and you will see that there are a set of videos that says Google Forms for Teachers and Students Russell recommends. That's a great place to start. This is a more advanced set of videos that's going to show you some additional features that we can use when working with Google Forms. So let's start from the beginning. We've got our apps. We're going to click on our apps. We're going to come down to our drive, and then what we're going to do is we're going to click on New, and we're going to come to More and click on Google Forms. There it is, and we're going to just click there and start a form. Now, a couple of tips. This is what we're going to try to do in this set of videos, give you a few more tips of sort of things that you can do. So we're going to start here at the beginning again very quickly, just by giving ourselves a title to this set of Google Forms. And what we're going to do is we'll call this Blended Learning Survey. So what I'm going to try and do is get some information from teachers about how they blend their learning. I've also written in a quick description. Now, one of the first things is, and this is really important, sometimes you really want to know either who's filling in the form, particularly because you might want to make sure that they're the only person, that they're not sort of filling in the form 3 or 4 times. There's various things you can do. One of the most obvious things you can do is click in settings and say limit to 1 response. But the problem with that is that it will require students or whoever you're doing the survey with to actually sign into Google. So they will need a Google account. Is there any other way around it? Well, there is in a way, and the way that you can do this is to make your first question their name. So, for example, you're going to just choose as a short answer, and you're going to write the question in here. Can you give, or can you write your full name? And I know that's going to seem pretty obvious, but that's the first thing that you can do. And then you're going to add a second question where you would ask, can you provide your email? Now that's going to help a little bit. I mean, it's not perfect because people can obviously have more than one email, and lots of people do, but it does give you a little bit more control. Now when you do that and you click on short answer, what you can also do is, instead of just clicking on short answer, come down to here and click on short answer, apologies, click on short answer, but then you have actually got some advanced feature choices here, and I'm just going to click on these, okay, and we can ask for data validation. And what we can do here is make sure that it's text and that it contains an email address, okay, and that way it will at least make sure that you've got the @ sign added. And of course what I also suggest is that you make that a requirement. So immediately you are now trying to gather a little bit more information about the person that's filling in the questionnaire, and the result of that, of course, is that you've probably got a fair idea whether they're doing multiple answers. Okay, so that's one way that you can kind of control. So data validation is a really useful tool to remember. Just to sort of go over that, all I did was choose to do a short answer or a paragraph, and then in the advanced features I've chosen data validation. There are various things. For example, if you're asking for a telephone number, or if you look, you can sort of control it, less than, more than, etc., equal to, so you've got various is a number, is a whole number, etc. So for example, for telephone numbers or bits of information. So there are various data validation forms that you can, or data validation controls that you can add that help make sure that the surveys are completed correctly. Now, in the opening set of videos, I showed you some ideas around adding pictures and videos onto the screen and then adding the questions underneath, and that can be particularly useful if you're planning on adding a number of videos. So let me just sort of take you through that. What I would do, and let's work with video, it can work the same with pictures, is I click on add video, and I'm going to just add a video. So I'll use the same one I always use. So I just do a quick search, video comes up onto the screen, click on that, select it. When the video is added. There are some little sections I can do here. First thing is that I can center a line, which can be quite useful. So that's a good idea. And then what I can do here is I can then add and make the video quicker. Now what I can do here is add a title, and I'm going to say, for example, imagine that this is question 3. I haven't named the other questions. I'll come back and do that in a sec, but I'm going to say, look at this video and answer the questions below. Now this is just one way of working, it's not the only way, you'll see in a minute. And the great thing about doing this is that now I can add a series of questions underneath that, okay? So that may be a nice way of working if you're perhaps wanting them to watch a video and then you've got 3 or 4 questions underneath. So I might, for example, add a question now underneath. The multiple question says, is this person a good presenter? And that's my question, and I'm going to give the option of yes or the option of no, and then I'll leave that there. Now that's a great way of working if I then decide I want to add another question, see, because I'm giving the clear instructions, watch this video, and the questions are underneath. So that's one way of working, but it's not the only way of working, and I'm going to show you another way of kind of adding videos and pictures onto the screen, perhaps better if you're just going to add one question. Let's just have a look at another example of a way that you can work. You may notice that when you add multiple choice question, in fact if you add any of the questions, you'll see that there's a little image here. So you can actually add an image along with a question anyway. So if I click on image here, I can grab an image. We can have a look, see what's already in the albums, the images that we've previously used. We're just going to grab an image for the sake of this example, select it and add the picture in, and the picture is loaded onto the screen. And of course what happens in this particular case is that we're writing the question above the image has been added in, and I'm going to say, for example, do you use Bloom's taxonomy when planning your classes? So are you thinking about the higher and the lower thinking skills? And then I can add the answers below. Option 1, yes, and add another option, no. Okay, so you can see I can do that. Now that is where, again, we've kind of added the question here at the top. We've got the image and then we've got the questions here, we've got the possibilities here. So that's another way of working with Bloom's taxonomy. This way works really nice if you're planning on having multiple questions underway. This one works really nice if you're just perhaps going to just do one question. But I also want to point something else out to you now, and I'm going to click on plus again to give you another option here, and then say, for example, which ones of these do you like? Now you have the option, if you click on an option, to add a picture as well, so you can actually make images as multiple choice questions. So if I click here, for example, and again I'm just going to upload from my album, in other words from images that I've already uploaded previously, just to make life easy for myself, I'm going to click on that as one option. Okay, so I'm going to click there, select, and then I'm going to add another one. So you can actually add options. So again the image is going to come up, and again I can then just grab an image from my album, and let's just choose another sort of technology or something just to make this work. Let's have a quick look if I got something else. Okay, let's perhaps add this then, Edmodo. Okay, so then again select that image, click on it, select it, and now therefore we've now got option 1 and option 2. And in this case we're not actually working with any written work, though we can also write something as well. So I can write today's meet, should write it with that capital really, and then here would be Edmodo. So you do have the option of creating a questionnaire that's actually got images in it. Okay, so you can put the image at the top and then add the questions underneath. Particularly good if you're going to have multiple questions. You can simply add a single image into a question, or you can offer the images as the options depending on the question that you're working with. Now let's just have a look at a few other question type. So what happens, for example, if you do a paragraph? Well, in a paragraph, you've still got the option of adding a picture at the top if you want to do that as well, as you have with a short answer. So adding a question at the top, obviously not in the answer, but in the actual image itself, within the question, within a short answer, within a paragraph, within a checkbox, you can always add the image to the top of the screen if you want to do that. If you come down to grids, I'm not so sure. Oh, you can. You can even do it with a grid. So you can actually add an image to almost any question that you want to on the screen as well. Note that when you're doing all these, you can't add video. All right, what you're getting the option here is to add a video rather than, sorry, add a picture rather than a video to your thing. But of course, you can add video this way. When you add video, and let's just click on another video and select it. What you get then is the video and a video title, and as I said, the best way particularly to work with video is then to add the questions underneath. So always write, look at this video, or watch this video, probably better, watch this video and answer the questions below. Okay, just to make it really clear, and then you can add the questions underneath by simply clicking on there. So hopefully that gives you a few ideas about working with video. Remember as well that you can always align it into the center, which is a really good idea. It just obviously makes everything look a lot more professional. Right, some other things now that we can talk about with Google Forms, and that is, let's look at a few more of the settings and a couple of other possibilities. Okay, if we come over to the settings, we've had a quick look at this, that we can limit to one response, but the problem is then people have got to be signed into Google. We can respondents can edit after submit, see summary charts and text responses. That's really interesting if you want the students to be able to follow the summaries that, of course, people remember that you get all the responses summarized. That can be quite a nice setting so that students can see the summary information. Now if we come into this presentation here, this is quite interesting. If we want to show a progress bar at the top of the screen, if we want to shuffle the questions, now I want to make a warning about this. Do not shuffle questions if you've got videos and pictures, particularly if you've set them in separate sections. So for example, if you've done my trick that I've suggested you of putting the video and then the questions underneath, do not shuffle them because that won't work. It will work, of course, if you put the video and the picture in with the question. You can do that and that will work, but not if you decide to add the question separate from the video, so have the picture or the video first and then a series of questions underneath. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Show link to submit another response. Well, you don't want to normally do that, so I wouldn't normally set that anyway. So I don't shuffle the questions generally, and I don't do that. And this is a confirmation message that you can provide once the responses have been recorded. Okay, so again, it can be quite useful. Coming back again onto settings, and now perhaps the most important one is that you can turn your questionnaire into a quiz. Now I've got a short video on teachertrainingvideos.com. If I just click onto teachertrainingvideos.com, you will see Google quizzes for teachers and students. Okay, so I have got it there, but I'm going to touch on it here as well. You can make a quiz, and what you can do immediately after each submission or don't release, so this is to give the mark, and then respondents can see missed questions, correct answers, points value. Those are the settings that you can create, and if we click on that and we start now to add questions, we're going to just add one more question here, you'll see that you get a lot more options, because if I, for example, choose what is the capital of London, question. Okay, and again I could add an image in here if I wanted to. Option 1, what is the capital of England, of London? I'm going completely mad, sorry. What is the capital of England might work. Okay, or Great Britain. So let's going to put in London, and we'll add another option. We'll put Manchester. But the trouble is with this system, of course, that you then need to, and remember you can add pictures as well, you need to put in the answer key. So you click on here and you're going to tell it, well, what is the correct answer? So we're going to say, well, London's the correct answer, and then we're going to edit, add answer feedback if we want to. So what are you going to put for an incorrect answer? Sorry, the capital is London. And you can always send a link if you want to give them some support, some help, or well done, correct answer. And you might say something like, you can read more about London here, and offer them a link. So you can see very easy that you can create quizzes as well. Now, one thing to remember about the quizzes, okay, you then also need to add the points that you're going to provide for the quizzes. And that is that you can't use quizzes for everything. So not every question type offers a quiz. For example, you can't add a short paragraph as a quiz question, because there are obviously no correct answers. So if you're trying to use a quiz that self-checks, then obviously it's important that you limit it to the questions where you can self-check. So that's quizzes, and I'm going to show you one other thing that you can do. Now for this last example, I'm actually going to turn quizzes off. So I'm going to come back here and I'm saying, no, I don't want you to make this a quiz. I'm going to click on save, so it will forget the answers. In fact, what I might do for this one is simply create a new example, because I think it will be easy if we work from a new example. So I'm just going to click on here and start new. Okay, and we're going to come again down to Google Forms, and just going to explain this to you because it's a little bit more complex, but it's quite a useful little idea. So we're going to call this one Test Maze. Now the way that this works, let's just start with the first question. So which language do you speak? So I'm going to ask the question, which language do you speak? And I'm going to offer a couple of options, and I'm going to offer the option of Spanish, and we'll just do 2, English. Now what I can do, if we click on these advanced features, okay, is if we click here, we can say go to section based on. In other words, we could actually create a section now that if you speak Spanish, you go to one certain place, and if you go to English, you go to another place. Now if we click on that, one problem at the moment is that you need to tell it, well, what section to go to, and you haven't created any section. So the first thing you're going to do, if you want to use this maze idea, that is the idea that people go off to different sections depending on what question they ask, and this is used a lot in business English. It could be good, for example, in any sort of business scenario, but in any sort of discussion scenario it can work really well. It doesn't have to be languages. If you choose A, you go to here. If you choose B, you go to here. It's just about setting scenarios. What you will need to do, of course, is add the section. Now at the moment we haven't got any sections, so we will need to add those. So I'm just going to show you how to do that. So we're going to click on the plus here, and we're going to add a question here, and we're going to call this Spanish question, just to make this really easy. Okay, and we're just going to put in which or what is the capital of Spain? Okay, question in. So I'm going to add the options. I'm going to put Madrid, and we'll add another one, Seville. Now I've just added that in, and I'm now going to add another one, and this is going to be French question. Now to, what is the capital of France? And again, we're going to add a couple of options here. We're going to say Lyon, and we're going to say Paris. Okay, so we've now added our questions. Okay, what we can do now is come back to the first question here, and next section to go to. And what we're going to do, if you notice at the moment, we still can't go to one of these questions because we haven't put it into a section. You do need to actually add specific sections where you go to. So I'm going to click. In fact, I'm going to have to stay on the opening question. I'm going to add a new add here a section. Okay, underneath, so that the section's underneath here, and this question now is going to be called the Spanish section. And any questions I add into this section, okay, and I'm going to click now on here, and I'm going to add another section underneath this one. So I'm going to click here now, and this one's going to be called French section. Now it's starting to look a little bit more interesting because I've got my sections and I've got my questions related. You could make the sections first and then add the questions in underneath. It doesn't really matter. If we come back now to here, you'll see that we can now click to go to the Spanish section. Oh, I've put French, English here. I'm going to have to change that to French, sorry. And then I'm going to click here to go to the French section. Okay, so let's have a quick preview of this by clicking on this button. We get our first question, and then I'm going to click on next, and it will take me to the Spanish section with the question here. Okay, click back again, and alternatively I went to French, clicked on next. It would take me to the French section, and of course I could add more questions. And of course I could do another maze, so from Lyon could go off to another one. So you can see that you can actually produce some maze. Now I once did this with a group of teachers, and this is quite interesting. In other words, because making mazes is very complicated if you're working on your own, because you've got to produce all the questions and all the sections, and you might have sub mazes and sub. In other words, it might go from Lyon, then you might go off to another one, and if you put Paris, you might go off into another one, etc. But one thing that you can do, and let me just go back a minute and just in fact leave that page because that's just the preview. If we come back here and if we send this, one of the interesting things that I think we can do, if I remember rightly, yes it can, is click here and add collaborators. We can actually add other people that can help us to make this questionnaire, and I think that that's really interesting. I did a test with a group of teachers, very interesting, not doing the questionnaire but actually creating it. So remember that when you create a quiz you can actually have people collaborating on the quiz. So what you could do is have one teacher producing the French section, for example, and one teacher producing the Spanish section. There's still more to Google Docs. I've given you, Google Forms. I've given you lots of information now. I've given you lots of the different things you can do. I've talked about the fact that you can even add collaborators and collaboratively work to produce your questionnaire before you even share it out. We've looked at adding pictures. We've looked at adding video. We've looked at the fact that you can set quizzes. We've looked at some of the text validation. As you can see, Google Forms has got lots to offer, and I really hope that those videos have helped you. Please remember to come to teachertrainingvideos.com. Lots of content on here, lots of training videos, and all here to help teachers and students to use technology. And please don't forget to sign up to the newsletter. So my name's Russell Stannard, and that's teachertrainingvideos.com. Thank you very much.